I address you first as a Kenyan, as a parent to Kenyan youth, as a lawyer, and lastly as a national returning officer for the presidential election.
Chebukati's opening remarks left no mistakes. This was an extraordinary statement.
I address you as a lawyer because I chose this noble profession in order to defend the law at all costs without fear or favor, and without any form of partiality, come what may. I became a lawyer so that I could defend people who had no one to defend them. And since I started my practice over 30 years ago, that's what I've been doing.
It was uncharacteristic Chebukati speaking straight and admitting that 7 days to the polls all wasn't well.
While today I want to confirm to you our full technical preparedness for this election, I want to state categorically that I shall not go down in history of this country as the national returning officer that plunged the country into a further crisis than I found it. It's already painful for me to be on record as the chairman of the IEBC that presided over a presidential election that was nullified by the Supreme Court. I've made this point on numerous occasions to my colleagues at the Commission. I've made several attempts to make critical changes, but all my motions have been defeated by a majority of the commissioners. Under such conditions, it's difficult to guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. Without critical changes in key secretariat staff, free, fair, and credible elections will surely be compromised. I therefore call on the staff who have been adversely mentioned to step aside to allow this project team to function without interference.
Apart from demanding changes from the Secretariat, Chebukati categorically required change of behavior amongst his colleagues.
As a lawyer, I cannot continue to be pushed by majority commissioners to accept legal opinions that serve partisan interests and are not grounded in the Constitution and the law. In the least, I find this as intellectual dishonesty for which my professional training demands that I abhor.
Chebukati then turned the heat on the presidential candidates, whom he did not name, though the apparent reference was Jubilee's Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA's Raila Odinga.
I cannot move forward when presidential candidates refuse to put their personal interests aside and for once serve the country. I took this job to make Kenya better, not to draw it to a crisis.
He then demanded for a meeting with the candidates.
As the referee of this contest, I'm extending an open invitation to the candidates to a meeting that I'll preside over so that they can talk. Once the Kenyan people see that their leaders are talking and are putting Kenya first, then we can douse the tension in the air. Politics should not make people enemies.
The embattled IEBC chairman spoke of the dire consequences of failure, adding that it all stems from the context of the election.
This is what we get when losers have faith in the transparency and fairness of the process and get inspired to work harder next time. Peace is what we get when the supporters of the losers are satisfied that the process was fair and transparent. Peace is what we get when the winner did not have to help the process. This is what we get when we embrace true democracy, where a nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody.
Having set terms and issued ultimatums, Chebukati drew the line in the sand. He too is prepared to resign.
I would rather bow out with my name intact and my head lifted high than be part of a process where personal interests dwarf the interest of the nation. I realize that my actions in this noble office will define me for life. My actions will become my legacy and the reference point not only for my life, but that of my family. I'm therefore not ready to sacrifice an eternal legacy for short-term gains that will sear my conscience.
It is a statement that inched close to that dreaded constitutional moment when the chairperson of the Election Commission quits. But quitting, he said, is not in the cards of the day for the sake of the country.
There are elements who would love nothing more than to hear me announce my resignation at this point. In reality, that will be the easiest thing to do, But we all have to put our country first, and that's why I'm determined to make this country work.
The next few days will be critical in determining whether Wafula Chebukati will still be in charge at the IEBC and whether he will oversee the October 26th election, an election he says will not be credible if conducted under the existing conditions at the Commission. Brenda Wanga, NTV, Nairobi.